Welcome to the Adoption Side by Side podcast, because no one should have to walk the adoption journey alone. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Steph. We walk the journey together, and we want to walk it with you if you'll have us.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing probably one of the biggest questions around private infant adoption, which is the cost. Why does adoption cost so much? And some ways that you can earn, fundraise, and there's also grants available. So to kick us off, I think we should maybe go ahead and take care of the elephant in the room. We are asked a lot, why is private adoption so expensive? So we're going to take a few minutes to do our best to answer that question. Adoption currently can range probably close to $70,000, but the average would probably more come in around, say, $50,000, $60,000.
And I think a lot of people need to remember that those amounts aren't just the adoption fees.
Correct.
That's typically, like for Alex and I, ours included our airfare. Ours included the hotel stay. That includes your food while you're away. So when people give how much their adoption cost, typically we're giving how much the whole thing was from start to finish. Your clearances, if you had to pay a copay for your physicals, everybody, you keep track of all that. One, so you know, but then also so that these averages can come out. So there's those averages, and then there's the averages of what it is for the actual agencies, and those differ as well.
Yes.
So you've got to think about all the angles.
I think sometimes people hear these large figures and they kind of assume maybe that's just an agency fee, that a huge profit's being made by an agency, or that even worse, maybe a mom is being coerced into giving a child to another family in exchange for some large sum of money. So we're just going to take a second to address a few of those concerns too.
And we did ask caseworkers and our consultant just to give a little bit of their understanding, since they deal with it a whole lot more than us on this. And so we were told from our research and just that there's many factors that come into the expense part of the agency bill, if you want to call it that, for whenever you sign up with them. So most agencies do have a fee to sign up with them. And that is more or less just processing fee of paperwork and all of that. So you maybe pay anywhere from $500 to $2,000 to become part of this agency. They are going to show you cases if you're working directly with just the agency. Now, if you do a consultant group like we had done, you have that fee as well, but that's an optional choice for if you want that with you. But then when you sign up with the agency period, whether you're doing it straight on or you've gone through the consultant. So when we matched with our child, we were told that our adoption would cost X amount of dollars. We have to remember that within that X amount of dollars, there are multiple people at the agency that help us, whether it's directly or helping us or behind the scenes. And I know, Andrea, you guys had that same thing. You had a couple people you communicated with.
Yes. So at our agency alone, I was trying to think through all the different people who worked with us. And we had the person who I'm sure processed our paperwork at the beginning. We had a person who was facilitating the matches, would do the phone calls between the families, would show the profile books. I have said before, we loved that the caseworker who was working with our son's birth mom, she flew out to our area, had, her travel costs, her stay. And that was just a godsend. It was so welcome to have her there to be able to help us. They had a legal team there that was processing our paperwork. They had an attorney that we signed on with to complete our adoption with, a slight added expense for the court costs. Right. But they just provided so many things and so many different people to help us in that journey.
So along with that, I know with our agency, we too had the caseworker. She was, I believe her official title was like the match coordinator. So she was who we talked with first. Then we had our own caseworker that dealt with just Alex and I, the adoptive parents. I know our birth mom had her own caseworker. And then we were blessed that we had the overseer who was also a caseworker, but she worked with us as well. So just right there were 4 people plus the medical records person that I know was on staff there because we got an email from her. So right there was just 5 people of the countless that were at the agency. So we have to remember that when we pay this big fee to the agency, each of those people gets paid. So the fee might be more than what we think it should be, or we think adoption is so expensive. Yes, it's expensive. But when you do all that math, 5 employees, maybe the fee is about 20,000. And this is just an average, just an example. Take that money, 8 adoptions in a year, that's 160,000 for the year. That comes down to about 32,000 for a salary for each of those 5 people. And like I said, that was just an example of how that math might break down. So that's part of it. We're paying the employees of the agency, but then there's also the agency fees that they have themselves, their legal contract team. If they're renting their space, everything that goes along with having a building to run that. Then there's the side for all the birth moms. Some of them need counseling before, during, and after. So that's included. The birth moms are never just given money.
Right.
It is put out there that they receive I don't want to even say it's a payment because it's not, but there's money there to help the birth mom, whether it be through counseling, if they need education themselves on what's going to happen throughout the process and what to expect after. If they need housing, there's a housing expense that's built in. The medical cost sometimes is put there for the doctor's appointments. If they need an Uber, there's maybe a portion set to help them with that. Food. So there's all of that. And then there's also some agencies do a 30 days postpartum to help them with whatever they might need. That's a hard time that I think a lot of people forget about for the birth mom. They're going through maybe some depression.
Well, not just, they don't have just the physical recovery of giving birth, but this huge emotional toll, which I'm sure looks different for every person.
Absolutely.
But I really feel that a good agency will ensure birth moms have access to postpartum counseling.
And then with that, then there's just a couple other things that's put in with that expense that you're paying to the agency, like ICPC, the Interstate Compact of Placement of Children. That's an expensive piece because that's different people working, and that has to be paid. So when you're paying the agency that lump sum, there's a lot of factors to it. And then that's why adoption's expensive. And then not including if you're traveling, if you have a hotel stay, or like you did with Airbnb, your food. So there's reasons why it's so expensive.
Sure. One other thing I wanted to mention too, because I've seen this concern raised a lot, especially, we all know the internet is a scary place out there. You're probably listening to this on the internet now, so don't want to knock it too much. But one concern is I've seen, so if you are going to, say, fundraise to be able to adopt a child, why would we not fundraise for a biological mom to keep her child? So I kind of made just some quick notes, some thoughts on this. While it is true that for many birth families, finances are a concern, these concerns are not really around a one-time cost, as in this case, as an adoption. They're facing great uncertainty for providing for their family in the long term. And there are usually other factors that contribute to that decision to place a child with an adoptive family. Of course, each case is unique, as we will say many times, but other reasons might include they have lack of physical and emotional support from either the birth father or from their family or community. Some just don't have their village around them. Some may be dealing with things like substance abuse, addiction, incarceration, and there are concerns for raising a child maybe while they're attending school for that time frame of their lives. That's just to name a few. There are many. So yes, funds received through adoption help that bio family to ease the burden for a few months while they make an extremely difficult decision and cope with the pregnancy and, of course, post-delivery care. But ultimately, that mindset of, oh, could we fundraise? That's ultimately not enough to necessarily provide forever for a child, to forever change the situation. So if we have any families who are listening who have ever made that decision or considered that decision of placing a child for adoption, we'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on what contributed to that decision, because we do want to handle this question with care. We never want to give the impression that we think it is right to buy a child. That's kind of a common phrase
it's
that's
a
used.
misconception, I think, for the world that whenever you're adopting and you're paying $40,000, well, you just bought that child. Well,
Sure.
that's not what it is. We just explained
Right.
where all of that money
Right.
goes.
Where does it
and
go? And it's not all even to the birth family that we
Correct.
are, saying, well, then they could use that to,
Mhm. And
change
it's
their lives.
never directly to the birth family. It's indirectly to help support them
Sure.
through this decision process. And like I said, there's that counseling, because there's a lot of birth moms that say, yes, they want to do it. And then they start to wonder, am I doing the right thing for myself and my child? So then the agencies will put on pause, and we had this happen. They put that birth mother's case on pause, and they get her the counseling and the help and the love that she needs, so that she is making an informed decision
Yes.
that is right for her, not for the families that are hopeful to adopt, but that is for her. So that's a big piece with the adoption agencies, is they advocate for birth mom first and foremost to make sure she is making the decision that is best for her.
So, two things we would encourage you to do while choosing what agency or consultant group to sign up with. If you're choosing an agency, we would encourage you to look into what care they do offer for birth moms.
Mhm.
Often it really is just listed on their website. They already have a lot of information provided for them, but it is important to make sure you're choosing an agency that will support the birth family well.
Yes.
A lot of times, if you say choose to sign up with a consultant group to start, consultant groups have really done a lot of vetting already. They're working with agencies that they consider reliable. So that's one thing to note there. Something else I wanted to note: when you're choosing an agency or you're reviewing cases that a consultant is sending you from agencies, carefully read those and make sure you understand the financial policies of the agencies. Some agencies do protect you more financially than others. So, just as an example, let's say an agency fee for a case is $40,000. $20,000 is due when you match, and then the other $20,000 will be due at placement when you leave the hospital or wherever you're at with that baby. If you pay the $20,000 at match and then say that match falls through, the bio family might change their minds, what part of that $20,000 will be lost? So for some agencies,
Mhm.
all is lost. You basically begin again. Others take a small percentage to cover their basic cost of that case, but the vast majority rolls over to your next match. So just make sure you're making an informed
Yes.
decision. We're not saying any agency is necessarily doing the wrong thing, but pick what is best for you. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Always make sure you're making an informed decision. There are kind of three main ways people usually collect needed funds for adoption. So we're going to touch on each of those. First is just your personal earnings and your savings, and then there's fundraising, and then there's grants. So starting on personal earnings and savings, it's really recommended before you launch into fundraising that you carefully review your own spending to see where you can make cuts. So obviously that is going to look different to every family. Just as an example from our personal story, for us that looked like eating out less, cutting back on coffee runs, and we had made the decision that during that fundraising year, we typically do a week-long vacation, and we decided not to do that. So we could apply that money to adoption because for good or not good, people are, when you're asking for money, they are kind of watching your lifestyle and how
Mhm.
you're spending your money. So it's not saying you need to live like misers. You can never ever pick up a Starbucks, but just encouraging you to just be mindful, save as much as you can.
Yeah, I actually had a friend while we were doing that, and she wasn't saying it towards us, because we did the same thing. We were like, should we go on the family vacation that my husband's family had planned? And we went because it was family, but it was said that people were asking for money for something else. I don't remember what this other family she was talking about. And she's like, they're asking for money for that. But then in that same year, they were going to Disney. They had gone somewhere else. They had bought a new car. They had done all of that. So that's kind of like the negative
Yeah.
side to it. But I mean, we all know adoption's expensive. And we have the resources to take care of the child once they are here, like a biological family would
Sure.
as well. But we don't have a salary income to just be able to put towards the adoption expenses.
Right.
So for us, we did all of that as well. We, we watched where we were spending our money and didn't do anything too extravagant. But we had at the very end, we had used our fundraisers. We knew we were going to be applying for grants and had been as well. But we did end up taking a home equity loan out that was suggested to us because you can take that out and that money is just there for you to use for anything, whether it's a repair on your home, if you need a new car, whatever. So I, because I am who I am, had told the bank, I was like, this is okay that I'm taking this home equity loan out. I'm using it for an adoption. And they said, absolutely, as long as you're making your payments. And so we did have that. We ended up having to use it. But then when we talk about grants on a little bit, we had grant funds that came in right at the end that paid that loan off then for us. So we didn't have to carry that debt into becoming a family.
Yeah. So on the topic of fundraisers, we're going to share either some fundraisers that we did or some ones we've seen other folks do online and kind of follow that up with just a few general fundraiser tips. So
and a couple that we both thought about doing,
right,
but ran out of time and didn't get to.
Yes.
So
which thank God for that, right?
Yes.
So we didn't need to use them, but hey, we'll share our creative energy with you.
Yes.
So one fundraiser that we both did, and we mentioned in another episode, was the puzzle fundraiser, where you give a suggested donation amount per puzzle piece, and then that person's name goes on the back of that piece. We love that because it's a very tangible way to show your child how many people were excited about their arrival. Then when we did that fundraiser, we used that to kind of announce our adoption journey.
We did the same thing.
And then it kind of just ran in the background of our other fundraisers. If you've listened to the episode where I admit that the puzzle we got didn't work and I needed to order a new one and I still haven't done it, even though my child is almost 2, the puzzle is ordered. They just texted me the order is delayed. I don't even want to think about it, but it is ordered, folks. And I'm going to be writing those names on.
And our puzzle is still under the dresser. It's put together and glued. It just needs a frame. So do the puzzle fundraiser. It's a great fundraiser. And then do whatever you want with the puzzle after that. But, I mean, that's just what we've done.
Yeah. It will exist. You know, we obviously carefully kept that list of names. So, but, you know, our son is still, I don't know if he'll appreciate it quite yet. You know, it's a 1,000-piece puzzle. So, might be a little bit till we break that thing out. But
so then another fundraiser that's very similar to the puzzle fundraiser, and it's actually not one that I had ever even heard of until Andrew was like, hey, have you heard of this? It's a sign the suitcase fundraiser. So you ask for a donation, and then people can sign their name on the actual suitcase. So obviously you probably don't want to get a black one. You want to get a suitcase that maybe is white or pink or blue, and then have Sharpies that people can write their names on the suitcase, and then that suitcase can go with you when you go wherever you're going to get baby, whether it's maybe just a mile down the road, take the suitcase with you, or if you're going to a different state, and then later it can be a beautiful gift for your child for family trips as well. They can see all those names that were excited to have them join the family.
I know the first time I saw it, it actually was a fundraiser for a child, an older child who was coming from foster care. So that was kind of cool, but I have seen it used just like we're talking about for private infant adoption. Another one you could do is some sort of change collection. An example I saw online was grab some inexpensive baby bottles. Saw someone recommend go to the dollar store and get like doll baby bottles. So they're, you know, not you don't need to buy the real expensive bottles for this. And you just ask your church, your community, your family, whoever, to fill those with change and return to you. Easy way to collect a few extra dollars. Moving on to next category, the sales. So lots of folks do custom t-shirts with a message about adoption or your last name, like Team Smith Adoption. And did you do a t-shirt fundraiser?
We did. So we did it because I know there's companies out there that you could do them through. We did it through a local. I was all about not only raising funds for the baby, but if I could help local organizations or businesses, why not? So good friends of ours have a screen printing business where they do shirts, hats, all of that. So I called them and said, hey, is this something you can help us with? And they said, absolutely. So ours was baseball themed, our entire adoption process. So ours said team last name. And then on the back, it had, they did the baseball diamond with, I think it said, help bring baby home. And we then sold those, like took orders from family and friends. Now I can say it didn't go as well as we maybe wanted, but the family and friends who bought them loved that because when we had fundraisers, they could wear their shirt
Mhm.
and people knew like, oh, I can go ask them
Right.
a question. On the other side of it though, we had some friends that said, well, outside of like doing events, I'm not sure I would wear that shirt. So
Mhm.
I have seen those ones, but then I know people do kind of like the generic ones where they maybe just get
Sure.
like a scripture about adoption or a picture and they sell that and people were more willing to maybe buy those ones. So it's a twofold. It's all in what you want. I
Yeah.
wanted shirts so that when we did our bigger sell or fundraisers, people kind of knew who that they could go
Yeah.
talk to.
Yeah.
And so, but we did it through our local company, but there's also two really big popular ones.
Yeah.
It's called Bonfire, is one of them. And then the other one is Fund the
Mhm.
Nations so that you can do them through there.
I've seen a lot of people using those. It's one of the first things that pops up with adoption
Mhm.
fundraisers if you're Googling. I did read that Bonfire is one that doesn't charge you for upfront costs or shipping. You don't have to create or store the inventory at your house. Your friends and family can just hop online and place the order themselves. They're delivered to you, or delivered to them, I should say. And then Fund the Nations, you need to have a little more time maybe to kind of keep track of inventory and shipping, but they have a lot of cool pre-made designs, or you could do your own. Obviously, any companies we mentioned here, not sponsored, not we're just throwing out some
Mhm.
ideas.
Or things that have worked for us.
Yeah.
So then another one that we did, actually both of us did, was Sarah's chocolate. So I believe you guys did it in the
Yeah,
spring
we
Easter.
did Easter, yes.
And then you had told us about it. So I looked into it. Well, when we were wanting to do it, it was in the season where they weren't mailing out chocolate because they didn't want it to melt.
Right.
Well, then I had thought about doing it at Christmas time, but we matched and that was going to be stressful. So I did it over like Valentine's into Easter. And that was nice because that one strictly was all online for us. So we didn't have to handle any orders. We didn't handle any money. People went on, they purchased whatever they wanted, and then it was shipped to them. So I never saw anything. And then at the end of it, Sarah's just sent us our portion of the profits. And it's funny, the little postcard just came. Do you want to do this?
Saw
and
that too.
Alex and I were like, oh, maybe we do, since we're thinking about starting the
Sure,
process
yeah.
again. We're needing the funds. We don't have the stockpile like we did the last time. That maybe we need to do it for Christmas. So
Yeah.
it was so easy. I mean, we had QR codes that we like put out on bulletin
Mhm.
boards and people could just go order chocolate and
Yeah.
they got it. So that was one that was really nice.
Yeah. And you can, I know it's when you go on to place the order, the shipping costs are a little bit pricey. I still recommend, because you could have it all lump sum shipped to you to save on shipping,
Mhm.
but then if you have friends or family who aren't local and can't pick it up, you're kind of limiting your sales. So
Right.
I think it's worth it. But speaking of local sales and partnering
Yes.
with local businesses, obviously we both did some of those. On our end, we sold cinnamon rolls with a favorite local bakery. It was super fun and, again, super easy. They made it so simple for us, and we have a picture of my car just filled up with boxes and boxes of cinnamon rolls, and we just did a distribution day out of our church. And we actually were in touch right before our son was born, so we didn't end up using it, and I'm kind of sad about that. We'll have to consider it if we adopt again. There was a owner of a local, I don't want to use the word coffee shop, but it was, what would you call it? Like, they distribute the bags of like coffee grounds.
Oh, okay.
So he was willing to partner with us. He was super excited. He was telling us we can create a custom blend, we can create custom labels about adoption. So he was all about it. So definitely, check into those favorite local shops, places that you have that you love. Did you do any more that was local?
We did. So one was my cousin owned a pizza shop and she would do fundraisers where you could, have your pamphlet. People order X amount of, she called them take and bake pizzas. Or she was doing at the time sponsor nights. So we picked a day and all orders, if you said this goes towards this adoption, and she just did it, all orders that day. We got a small percentage. So it not only helped her, but it gave us a little bit of money. And friends and family loved it because they're like, I didn't have to think about what I was cooking today because we knew that this was coming up. So that was another local one we did. And then there was a car wash, or is a car wash in our area that there's 2 locations. We sold gift cards for those, and people loved that. They bought them for Christmas presents, birthday presents, and then just stockpiled them. That one we did really well on as well. So that was another one where we hit 2 local businesses and were able to help them while also raising funds for the adoption.
Another idea that I saw online, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody in person do this, but I thought it was really cute, was selling prayer bracelets. I know some people love either, you can buy mass ones, but if you
Mhm.
or someone you know is good at making those, even better.
Right. Well, and actually, there was a school a friend of mine worked at. They were doing something very similar at the same time that we
Mhm.
were working, and she was like, "Steph, you can customize it." So we were thinking about it. We never did it. But we were gonna customize it with like the dark purple strand for adoption,
Yes. Mhm.
and then I think we had like two other colors, and they all had meaning. I can't remember what colors we were picking. And people were going to be able to
Yeah.
buy this bracelet and think of us and think of adoption at
Right.
the same time. But anybody wears bracelets, even men will wear
Sure.
those floss bracelets,
Yes.
and that's what this was going to be. So that's a good one. And I forgot actually until we started talking about that was something
Yeah.
that was on our radar that we thought about
That's
doing.
cool. Well, we're
Hmm.
saving that for next time then.
Yes, I am. I'm
Oh,
writing
no.
all my notes here of what fundraisers we need to do again.
Making your list.
Yes.
Speaking of which, now it's time to organize our talents.
Oh, organize.
Oh
Okay,
boy.
so I can crochet now. I just
Mhm.
learned that this year.
Mhm.
I can knit. I've been knitting since
Mhm.
high school. So I did. I knit washcloths and towels, and around Easter time I made little bunnies.
Mhm.
And those I just posted on Facebook, on my own page, and then I picked like the buy sell trade ones. Like I
Yeah.
had it all over, and I was meeting people I didn't know in safe parking
Right.
lots and giving them these bunnies or washcloths and things like that. And I forgot too, I quilt sewed pot holders together as
Mm.
well, and I sold those for a while. So I can say I have kind of started a small, very small stockpile
Sure.
to do that again, because that was something that didn't cost a whole lot because I had the yarn. I have so much yarn, and people love that handmade stuff. So we did that. But I mean, you can also do bake sales. Do any drawing if you do
Mhm.
drawings, anything like that. That is a skill that
Right.
you have that you think the public would like. Try it. If it doesn't
Mhm.
go well, no harm, no
Right,
foul.
exactly.
But why not do it?
Yeah. I saw one, it was on somebody's blog online. It was beautiful. They, for their adoption sales, they do beautiful calligraphy. So they were making, like signs at Christmas, like wooden signs. They would
Oh, that's
write. It was
beautiful.
so great. So just think about anything like that. I I had a note here. So let's just admit straight up, Stephanie's got the creative talents. I am not creative in that way. Anything that is using my hands to create cute stuff, artsy stuff, not in my wheelhouse at all. It's okay. You got to find what you're good at. And so I'm going to give a suggestion we had in mind that again we didn't end up using because of the timing of our adoption,
Right.
but in the future, one idea I'd had, I love acting and I love mysteries. So I was considering, right, actually, as we were starting the adoption process, I went to a murder mystery event and we thought, hey, we could do that. We could have a murder mystery dinner. Myself, my friends who love acting could kind of get together, portray the characters. And actually, many companies sell those kits. One local place I love to go to does these nights all the time, and they just sell the kits online. They are, when you purchase them, you can essentially purchase the license to perform
Hmm.
it. And that way, there's nothing with copyright for using
Right.
material. So there's an idea that I hope I can one day use in the future for adoption or any kind
My
of fundraiser we're pulling off. So
It could be my next one.
I
I
could.
could just bring you on to do that.
I
That would be
will.
fun.
I will happily act. So if you need a little murder in your life, the legal way, don't kill anybody. We're not advocating for that, but a little murder
Have a
mystery
little
dinner.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and actually while you were talking about that, I remembered that we wanted to do a spaghetti dinner. And you
We also were going to do
Yes.
that, and again ran out of time.
Yeah, and we actually had it like not planned in the sense that we had a date and all that, but we had like our list of we were gonna do Chinese auction baskets,
Yes.
and we had the place where we were going to hold the event, but just didn't get to it. That was one. And then I also really wanted to do a trivia night. And I had a friend who was a DJ who I was just talking to him about it the one day. He was like, I actually have trivia questions because we used to do that.
Sure.
And he's like, I'll give you my time and services for free. And then, I mean, that was going to help with the expense with that as well. And then just one other thing on the making of things. I had a friend years ago who was doing the adoption process, and she had a friend that made beautiful wreaths. And so they did a fundraiser that way. her friend was making the wreaths and then sold them to people. And I think you could special order whatever you wanted. And so it was another way of helping a local. And still thinking about it, we did a hat fundraiser. It didn't go as well, but people could special make hats.
Oh, nice.
And have them
I
shipped
remember
to
that
them.
one.
Yes,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That one was fun too. So that's just, think outside of the box when you think about fundraising.
Right.
I mean, there's the usual ones we all see, but then think outside the normal wheelhouse.
It's fine to kind of create your own and
it is.
Find what works for you. We kind of talked a little bit, we're moving into our next category of fundraisers, which is events like the spaghetti dinner. And like Stephanie was saying, you can add things into those dinners. It can be bake sales, raffles, silent auctions, little murder if you're like me. Gotta quit talking about murder, Andrea. Not appropriate for the podcast. Come on. And I know like some venues, especially churches, are willing to let you use their space for free or at a reduced cost. We were very blessed. We had a church that had a good sized space for our events, so that was really helpful.
Right. So one of the biggest ones that was the biggest fundraiser for us, and I think it was pretty close to the biggest for you guys as well, was the giant yard sale. We collected things for months on end, so much so that my car sat outside of the garage, and our garage was full of stuff. It got to the point that we weren't sure what was ours and then what was fundraiser. And then we also had a church where we were able to have their fellowship hall, and then we spilled into the entryway of that fellowship hall, and there was just so much stuff. So that again was one where we posted it on Facebook in the buy sell trades all over.
Oh yeah, Facebook has so many different
avenues.
Yeah, for all the different yard sales are very popular in our area. I don't know if they're popular all across the country, but in our community, it's like, here's this Facebook group for yard sales, and then here's 20 other Facebook groups for yard sales, and we got tons of people. Tons of people. And we did ours in January, so it was all inside, of course, because we couldn't be outside, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And ours was in June, and we still had it inside just because of the amount of stuff we had. I remember when we were setting up, we were unloading boxes, and we kept going, we need more tables, we need more tables. So we were going around to the church, taking pictures of the room we were in so we could set the tables back up the right way. And we were even leaving and going getting tables from other places. We had so much. So that's one place where your village of your own family and friends is so important and helpful, but your village of your community and your surrounding communities can help with fundraising. And it's a blessing in disguise. I remember getting messages, I have this, if you want it, I would love to give it to you, because it was people that just wanted to help us. And there is a downside to that, to publicizing what you're doing and why you're doing it. During our sale, we were posting it all over. We did have a comment on one of the posts about questioning why we were raising money for the adoption. If we couldn't afford the adoption, how could you afford to take care of the child? And we were blessed that the community rallied behind us and answered the question before I even had a chance to. And then I didn't, because the comments back to that person were thankfully and lovingly, tastefully done, so that I felt that it covered it, and I didn't need to say, well, it's not that I can't afford to take care of the child once they are here. It's that getting the child, because adoption is expensive, that is a struggle. So we covered that, thankfully, with the community helping with that. So that was on that fundraiser specifically that we had that comment. But not to go off topic, but at that fundraiser, we were inside on a Friday evening, I think it was, and after the event was over, some things had happened during it that were kind of like, ooh, we weren't sure about.
Same.
I had, like you're dealing with the community and the public. It's a little different. But I had a message from a friend that there had been a double rainbow over the church because it had started to rain. And when they walked out, she saw it. She goes, I just wanted to send you this because I felt that you needed to see it. And I started crying, because we all know that's what I do. And because it was a true blessing that there had been some negativity, but God was blessing us. So he was there with us, and then he blessed us more than we even thought possible with that fundraiser. And I have all the things to remember to do in the future if we do it again, and what I want to change. And I guess I could share that. Have your stuff, but there's certain things that you don't want to have. The next go round, we're not doing clothes. Clothes went, but we had way too many of them.
We really struggled with that too. We had so many clothes left over. I will say we did sell a lot, so I don't know that I felt as strongly, but we definitely, of any item, I'd say we had to then, at the end, we took a bunch to Goodwill, whatever
That's what
was
we
left.
did, yes.
We looked, or Salvation Army, we kind of called around to places to see who would take it. Definitely the item that we did not sell.
Yeah, so clothing isn't, and then with that, we had it planned that we would go to the Goodwill, Salvation Army, St. Vincent de Paul's, all those places, but in the future, I want to have called all of those places prior so they know, because not thinking about it, we all had our shirts on and like 3 cars went to one of them at almost the same time and they told us to not bring any more stuff. So I want to just let the community know that, hey, afterwards, if there's stuff that we don't want for another sale, we want to bring it to you. So that's something that we learned about that. And with that, in the months that we prepared for it, if something came in that I thought would sell on Marketplace, I posted it. People were giving it to me to sell, so I didn't see why it mattered whether it was at the yard sale or if I sold it previously on Marketplace. And we sold a lot that way.
That's smart.
I picked the bigger items that I thought would go, and sometimes people would like, I have a couch, and I said, okay, send me a picture. I don't want your couch in my garage. And we would sell their couch and then make arrangements for people to pick it up that way. So also remember that Marketplace is such a good resource as well.
We had something we ran into kind of at the end, just as a tip, is we had a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but we had some heavy furniture left that didn't sell. And some places, the Goodwill Salvation Army won't take furniture. So definitely have a plan for where you want your furniture to go. Thankfully, we found a place. It wasn't a big deal. But just like Stephanie said, it kind of helps at the end of that to know where your items are going. So you have a bit of a plan and it makes it run more smoothly at the end. When you're tired, you want to just, because you will be tired.
Because it's not just a 2-day thing. It's like a week thing setting up for it. And we did take items back home and had an additional yard sale, I think like 2 months later at our house. And it went well too, but we still then had that stuff to get rid of as well.
Another kind of event that I have seen online I thought was so interesting was there are groups that actually let you form a team. So, your friends, your family, church, whoever, you form a team and then you complete a service project in your community and they donate funds to your adoption. So one of those, I think it was the one that I found most readily when I was looking up this info, is called Both Hands. So with them, you work with your team to complete home projects for a widow in your community. I just thought that's such a beautiful way of showing love to somebody. And I saw this is one of their things on their website. What's the catch? There's no catch. This is a way we want to bless, in this example, somebody who is a widow. We want to bless them. You do that and we will help you out. So just a nice exchange. If we're moving to fundraiser tips, did I miss any good fundraising?
I don't think so. I mean, we hit like the big ones. And I mean, like we've all said, think outside the normal fundraiser wheelhouse. Talk to your community. Talk to your friends. See if your friend has a skill that they want to share. And then also remember that your village is there to help you, but it's okay to look outside your immediate village.
Sure.
Because sometimes your immediate village might not always have the resources to help you. And it's not because they don't want to. It's just maybe there's something going on in their life that they don't want to share. And so they don't help you when you're kind of shocked or surprised that somebody doesn't. So keep that in mind. And it's okay to go outside your small little village to the communities around you, like we said previously.
So some general fundraiser tips. Try to do different types of fundraisers. So for example, we did the puzzle fundraiser, which essentially is just donations, followed by a yard sale, an event, and then sold cinnamon rolls and Easter chocolate. So sales. If you do all sales or all events or all just really asking for donations, people I think can get tired of just seeing similar requests. So try to vary it a little bit.
Well, and then within that too, you're going to different parts of the village.
Yes.
So typically when you're doing like the selling of the chocolates, the cinnamon rolls, the pizzas, that your village that you're talking
Mhm.
to, and maybe the people that your people know.
Yes.
But when you do the events, spaghetti dinners, mystery murder nights,
That
all those
all those
big
yard
ones,
sales.
you can go to the community
Mhm.
because they love that. I mean, you see a spaghetti dinner, you're like, oh, I don't have to cook that night. I'm
Right.
going to go do that, as long as it's something you're comfortable supporting. So it
Absolutely.
allows you to do that too.
And just make sure to keep careful documentation of what you earn, how you earn it, so that if there are ever any questions about your fundraisers, you will just have that answer immediately available. And we talked a little bit about this before we started recording. Wanted to touch on what do you do if you feel you don't have a big community, especially kind of your local community. Maybe you've just relocated to a new area. So now really is that ideal time to get plugged in and find your people. That can be in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
You might join a church, you might find a club based on one of your favorite hobbies. You might love participating in local sports games, whether watching, whether playing, coaching. And we're not advocating that in the sense of go meet people for the purpose of begging for money,
Right.
but rather having the support of a village while you're going through adoption can be very crucial for your emotional health. Even if the people you meet are just there to pray for you, encourage you, that's enough. That's the most invaluable part of all. It definitely is an added blessing when those people come alongside you, volunteer to help you. But for all reasons, please, if you are feeling isolated for whatever reason, whatever your life circumstances, really take this time of this planning for the adoption, this wait for baby to build on that group,
Mm-hmm.
build on your village.
Yes. All right. So one of the last of the big three that we've thought of, and I'm sure there's other ways to fund an adoption, but one of the big ones is grants. And I don't want to say we applied for a lot of grants, but I did a lot of grant research because I knew that fundraisers wasn't going to be the only thing to carry us. So when applying for grants, there's different things you have to go through. And I was just refreshing my brain of some of the ones that we did. And almost all of them, I think there was only one that I didn't have to have much stuff done. Like the very first one I submitted for, I don't think we had anything done. And they sent us grant money. And that one was they just sent it directly to us. So we put it in the bank and it helped pay for the home study or whatever was coming up next. But most of the time, grants want you to be home study approved just to show that you are actually adopting and not just applying for them. And then most of them want recommendation letters. So a couple of them just wanted personal ones. So we called friends and asked them to write letters, and they sent them directly to that grant. But then they also gave us copies. That way, if there was a grant down the road that we needed them, we would have them as well. And a couple of them also wanted a interview and a recommendation letter from your pastor. So that was something that we did very early on. Was we met with our pastor just so that he had questions that he wanted to ask us, just so that he knew us, but he wanted to know us a little bit deeper. And then he wrote a beautiful recommendation letter, answered the questions that grant was asking, and sent to them. So that's what's most of the time is needed to apply for grants. Now, some of the grants did not require you to be working with a direct agency just yet to apply. So there were a couple that we were able to apply for, and I would get an email or response or a phone call, whatever, back, and they would said, we've received your application. It's not going to go to review just yet since you don't have an agency you're directly working with, since we were working with a consultant group and working with multiple agencies. The minute you are matched with an agency, call us and we'll review your application. So there were a couple that we sent in and that was okay. They just sat there, and the minute we matched, I sent the email, hey, we've matched, and this is the information that they needed back: agency name, when baby was due, the state, just that general information. A couple of the grants then also were, we need you to be matched and baby needs to be placed before we will review. So,
and weren't a lot of those you needed to have baby placed, but before finalization? Did you find that?
Yes.
For most? Okay.
So all of the grants we applied for, we applied for them and funds came in if we received them before finalization. So there weren't any grants that we did after. Most grants are once you finalized, the door's kind of shut
Right.
because you finalized, the baby is now officially yours. A lot of them tell you up until finalization, if it's a matching grant, you can keep working on it and all of that. So we did all of that. Then there were a few grants that we were able to apply for and did the review process before we even had an agency. There was one grant, and I'm refusing to say names because I don't want to knock any of them. All grants are beautiful and great, and if they're giving you even just $100, that's $100 more than you had yesterday. One did say we applied for it and we were kicked back that it was a no. That's fine. They told us, go ahead and you can apply again. And I can't remember if I asked them in that time period what we needed to change, or if I applied again and it kicked back and told us no again, and if it was then that I asked. But a lot of them want to see your financial records. So they want to see what you spend your money on and where money goes, and do you have savings, and why do you have your savings and you're not tapping into that, all those different points. In this one specifically, when I asked them why were we rejected, it was because we had tithed too much. And for us, that was okay, that's fine, but we're not going to apply again because we felt that our tithing should not be judged when we were trying to adopt a child, because giving to the church is just as important as this. So that was you just have to watch, and you'll know if it's a grant you want to continue to apply for, if you're going to adjust something or not. And some people told us, well, just fudge that. And I said, no, that's not being honest. I want to be honest throughout everything. So we didn't even do that. We did have one grant at the end that it was one of those ones that we had to have placed, or not placed, but we at least needed to be matched before we could submit everything. And it was a matching grant. So it was a grant that said, we're going to give you X amount of dollars matched. So $15,000 up to 15 will match you. So we raised $7,500 and then they match us $7,500. And it didn't matter how you received those funds, whether it was through fundraisers or family donations. That was one that we were blessed. I could see on our end who was giving. There were names on there that I didn't know. So it was people that knew of this grant and donated and gave to us. And I liked this one too because most don't share personal information with you.
Yeah.
This one I had addresses. And I like that because I may not have known that person, but I sent them a thank you note. And I said, thank you so much because this money is coming in near the end for us and is helping us cover last minute costs. Yeah. Then people always ask too, well, what happens if the grant money goes to the adoption agency? Because a lot of the grants want to do that. They want to send it to the adoption agency. And that's why some of these grants, if you're not matched, won't award you funds because they have nowhere to send it.
Right. Some people may choose to sign up with one agency. In that case, grant applying may be easier for you in the beginning process,
Yes.
the wait for the child. If you are signed up with multiple agencies or with a consultant group, for which you see many agencies, it can be a little bit trickier.
Yes. So for us, that was our case. So we had that at the end, we had our match at the end, and it was the end for us because we matched and placement happened very quickly. But they then, since we had already paid the final bill, the grant sent the money to the agency. We sent the agency an email. We've received Life Songs grant. We've received Show Hope grant. We've received a Child Waits, whatever it was. This X amount of dollars will be coming to you. The agency sent back, great. When it gets here, we'll do everything we need to do on our end, and you'll be issued a refund check. And so then the agency sent us a documented letter that said you had paid this cost. This is what the grant money was. This check is for this amount. And then we got that back. So yes, we had taken that home equity loan out and we did use it. But because we were awarded grant money near the end, because of the way ours was set up, we were able to pay that off. So grants are beautiful. Grants are amazing. Do the research on them. There were some that as we were researching, we were like, that's not going to work for us. There are different stipulations on. Some of them that when you read, it's for ones that maybe the family is adopting multiples or the family is adopting a child that they know has disabilities. So there's different grants out there for different walks of life. There are Facebook groups as well. I was in one, and
Me
that
too.
was nice. Yes, I think we were both in the same one, because people could share what they knew about grants. And you could also share deadlines. So if I was missing a deadline, I could see, oh, wait, that's coming up. Sometimes grants they go a couple times a year. So you can apply that way too. So grants are amazing. Make sure you apply for them, but do your research so that you know what grants to apply for and when and how the whole process is going to work for you.
And if you find that there's some that you cannot apply for until you have that match, so you know which agency you're with, just keep a list, keep a documented list, so that way you know when you have that time. Because that time, especially if it's a quick turnaround, you get a call about a baby that's due in a week, or you know, hey, here's where I need to go back to. You're not starting over. One thing too, I don't think you touched on, was just be aware that some grants do have an application fee and others are free. And of course, that's your own discernment. It's, is it worth it to you to pay X number of dollars in hopes of receiving a grant? Just decisions that you have to make. But there are ones that are free as well.
And with that, there was one grant, and I didn't know it until after the fact, that it needed like a $15 fee, and nothing ever came of it. So unfortunately, there's scammers out there. And that was one of those ones that in that grant fund, almost, I think it was like 2 days later after we paid this, somebody was like, this is a scam, don't apply for this grant. So just keep an eye on that. And like Andrea said, I had a notebook for my grants, a page, ones that we had applied for or dates that they needed to go. And then I had asterisks or highlighted a different color for ones that I needed to apply for once we were matched, or whatever the case was. And a lot of them, I was able to have everything done. I just couldn't maybe submit it until we were matched. Or like I said, a lot of them I could, and I just needed to tell them I'm matched now. So just do your research. All right. So I think that ends our episode on how to kind of fund your adoption. Like we said, there is no right, no wrong. There's probably more than what we mentioned. Just do your research. This is one of those do your research episodes. So let's close out in prayer.
All right, sounds good.
All right, dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time. We thank you that Andrea and I were able to share what we know on funding and adoption, whether it is your own personal funds, whether it is looking at fundraisers and maybe even supporting places in your community. And then the grants that are out there for adoption. There are so many of them, and they are just a blessing to adoptive families. So Lord, we just pray that as listeners are listening, that they would learn something new and take it, and it would be helpful to them or to somebody that they know that is maybe looking at adoption. And we just pray that you be with each and every single person who's listening, and wherever they are at in the adoption process or helping somebody, that whatever we have to say would be helpful for them, and just guide and protect each and every one of us. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find us on any major podcast platform and on Instagram, Adoption Side by Side, to listen to more episodes and follow along in our personal adoption journeys as they change.